Good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. And here are our top stories: how technology is not changing higher education, and wearables for our furry friends. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Daniel Klein. He's a senior technology and consumer products reporter with The Motley Fool. Dan, welcome back to the program.
I don't know, Jeff. It's a balmy 60 here in West Palm, so people are flipping out.
Wah, Dan. Wah, Dan. I don't think anybody on the East Coast or the northern half of the United States really feels sorry for you, because right now we're in a little bit of a cold spell. But let's jump into it. You're a technology guy. We talk about a lot of tech on this program, but it looks like with higher education, they're incorporating tech, but it's not all about technology. What do you have to say on this topic?
Yeah, so technology is not a one-stop answer. Like, there are certain things that tech is very good at. So you can automate, let's say, grocery picking for hard goods. If I am buying a box of Frosted Flakes, one box of Frosted Flakes is pretty similar to the next. If I'm buying a steak or a piece of salmon, there's a human piece to it. If I'm buying produce, there's an eye test to it. So it's the same way in higher education. There are certain people who can learn in sort of a technology bubble. They don't need help. They can use digital tools, and that may work for them. I'll give a lower education example that's not working. My son takes algebra from Florida Virtual School because, frankly, he lacks the focus to take algebra in a regular class. It doesn't interest him. He would be disruptive. The problem with it is while there is a virtual class, there's not all that much virtual teaching. So in theory, he could go out there and find the tools to teach him that. That's all there for free. But that takes a level of knowledge and drive that your average 16-year-old does not have. The same could be true of higher education. You can use AI and all sorts of things, but these are just tools that don't replace having actual professors and people who can view their students as human beings.
Yeah, and Dan, you mentioned AI. There's augmented reality. A lot of students today carry laptops and computer notebooks with them and tablets. But even when I see younger students, they have a notepad, a piece of paper, and a pencil or a pen, and they're actually taking physical notes. I mean, is this reinforce what you just mentioned?
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag. Schools have struggled with handing every kid a device, the expense of that, maintaining them, the firewall ability to make sure that they're not goofing around during class. In older kids, that's not an issue. If you're in a college class, they don't care if you're watching YouTube videos instead of paying attention. Ultimately, you're accountable to yourself. Whereas at younger ages, the teacher has some accountability for your success or failure. It's a mixed blessing, in my opinion, because as someone who cannot take a readable physical note, the advent of tablets and even being able to write a note on your phone as a journalist has been hugely beneficial to me. The days when I had reporters' notebooks and had to scrawl things down often led to me having to very quickly write my story before I forgot and couldn't translate my notes. Now, if I go to, say, a keynote speech at a trade show, I can record it on my phone, and the quality is not going to be that great. It's not for broadcast. It's just so I can say, oh, at roughly 10 minutes, this person says something good, go back to it. And I can go back to it and get a word-for-word transcript. So technology can be very good. The ability, this is very minor technology, but a professor can put every lecture, they can tape it and make it available to students. And that can do two things. Well, what happens when the student wakes up and doesn't feel well, or has a work conflict, or has a reason they can't get to class? They have the ability to still watch the lecture in a way that the teacher might be able to monitor that they did in fact watch the lecture. And it could make certain classes attendance less important. I always felt it was stupid that I had to go to a class that wasn't participatory. Like, just throw a camera up and let me watch it whenever. If it's a class that you're not even giving a lecture and it's just like reading from a book, just give me the book. There's lots of simple ways technology can make our life better. And yeah, virtual reality can mean that in a class, a medical class, I can show you the surgery in a way that you couldn't have seen it before. In a history class, I could show you what the world looked like back then. There's very easy, becoming more affordable technology that does all of that. And it's definitely going to be a game changer, but it doesn't replace the need for actual professors and people guiding your education, because, again, some people need more care than others.
Yeah. Last question for this segment. On yesterday's show, we had Rick Seltzer from Inside Higher Ed, and we talked about just the cost explosion and the administrative costs and all the costs for these higher education schools. Is the expense on technology a big part of that? I know administrative expenses, but what you're suggesting, if expense is a big part of that technology, if technology is a big part of that expense, do we need to roll back some of that in light of what we just discussed?
For the most part, it's not. One of the challenges with the cost of college has been that the easy availability of loans has driven up the cost of college. If you can borrow the money and the schools can get the money, they're going to keep raising the price. But I also think we're seeing a big pushback. You're seeing state schools push pricing as their model. You're seeing more businesses pay for digital degrees. And I think you're seeing more parents. I have a 16-year-old, and I have flat out told my son, who is 2 years away, like 2 and a couple months of school away from college, one, I want you to work for a year. And I also want you to know what you're going to do. And if what you're going to do requires a special degree, then I'll pay for that. But if you're just getting a degree to have a degree, which is something that a lot of people have to do, well, go to community college or go work at Starbucks and have them pay for the first couple years of your degree. There's no reason to go to a name school so you can be most things. Now, if you're going to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, there's reason to go to a cachet school. But for most of us, college is just kind of a box we have to check off on the way to whatever career it is. And as a parent, I'm happy to pay for a state school, but I'm only paying for a special school if it really is a reason for it. And honestly, my son's not all that academically driven, so my guess is his success is probably not going to be in that world.
Yeah, really, really smart perspective. Dan, I want to hold you over. When we come back, we're going to talk to Dan about some new wearable technology, but for some of our furry friends, you're going to want to stay here, right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? They are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive Fibrex composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back, and I'm joined by Daniel Klein, Senior Technology and Consumer Products Reporter with The Motley Fool. And I'm also joined by my cat, Sebastian. Sebby, say hello to the audience, buddy. So Dan, there's new wearable technology now for our furry friends like Sebastian. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I have 2 cats as well. And with cats, with indoor cats, they could live to be 12, they could live to be 22. You don't know. And it's very difficult to tell if something's wrong with them. If a cat is in pain, it might act a little differently, but it might be doing that at times you're not home or in ways that you don't notice. So what they're starting to create is wearables that monitor your pet's behavior. And at first they're for things like dogs that work or really perform real roles in society. But ultimately they'll be for all pets, where it will look at your pet's rhythms and its habits and say, hey, your cat usually sleeps 19 hours a day. Now it's sleeping 22 hours a day. Maybe something is wrong. Or it can look at its heartbeat and other things, just like we can monitor humans. But if you don't feel well, you can tell your wife, I don't feel well, take me to the doctor. Your cat might just sit on your lap more because it doesn't feel well. Our cat, Caroline, had teeth issues, and we eventually had to have all her teeth removed. Oh. And she didn't eat any differently. She didn't complain about it, but basically the doctor said, it hurt. And now she's much happier. She doesn't have any teeth. She eats just fine. At first they told us to soften her food. That hasn't been necessary at all. So I would love a tool that could help me monitor and tell, hey, is my cat, does it need to go to the vet? Is there something wrong? Because specifically with cats, you don't know. With dogs, there might be more signs. And vet care is very expensive. So you don't want to speculatively go to the vet. You want to have some information available. And just like with Teladoc, where, or different types of digital medicine for humans, if you know what's wrong with you, if you know you were probably exposed to pink eye, you can go online with Teladoc or other similar services and say, this is what happened. My wife has pink eye. I think I have pink eye. And they will write you a prescription, and that you don't have to go to the doctor. It's usually $25 or $50, depending on your insurance. That type of service might be available for pets, not based on your pet talking to someone on a video camera, but based on you being able to send data from this wearable to your doctor.
Although I feel like my cat is talking to us right now because he's telling me he wants food and petting. But Dan, I think you bring up a really interesting point, and it's about, let me put Sebastian down because he's getting a little out of control. I think it's expensive to take care of animals. A lot of people don't insure their pets. This is a way to mitigate those costs and smooth it out over a longer period of time. And we love our furry animals. Obviously, I love Sebastian. I also love Peaches. You love your cats. This is a way to maintain them and keep them healthy for longer periods of time and ultimately extend their mortality a little bit.
Yeah. And just make sure they're comfortable. One of the challenging things when you have a cat is end of life. You don't really know when a cat is no longer thriving and no longer, getting joy out of life. So tools that can help you monitor what the cat is doing might help. And, everyone has that decision to make. We've had 4 cats, and 2 of them lived very long lives and have since passed away. And one of them was very sick towards the end and wasn't keeping food down. And it was sort of very obvious when it was time to go. The other one was having sort of dietary issues, but was still happy and healthy, or at least happy and playful. So it was very hard to know with the vet what the right time was to sort of do the humane thing. And any tools that can help with that. And sometimes you might learn something that will prolong your pet's life. Maybe you have to make a dietary change because they're short on iron or calcium or something like that. And those are very expensive tests to do. So if things like that can be measured by a wearable and prevent you from having to go to the vet and draw blood, which is unpleasant in many, many ways. Getting a cat to the vet is not easy a lot of the time, to the point that
Tell me about it.
My wife has been looking at much more expensive at-home vets to not have to deal with carrying 2 cats in separate carriers to the vet. Um, so any of these tools could be good for pet owners and ultimately help save money.
Yeah, and you just talked in the last segment about, and we talked on the podcast this past weekend about the practicality of technology. And this is a perfect example of practicalness with technology. I'm still trying to figure out, do they wear an iWatch, Dan? Or where does this go? Does it go around their neck? Does it go around their paw?
So I think eventually
tail?
these are going to be chip-like implants.
Oh, okay.
At first, for say bigger service dogs or bomb sniffing dogs, they'll be more like wearing a Fitbit around your neck, because those are animals that are wearing harnesses that are used to having a collar. My cats won't tolerate a collar. So until this is something that can be absolutely unobtrusive for them, that they don't know is there, if I got my cat, say like a watch, she would spend the rest of the day gnawing on the watch until there was no longer a watch. So obviously there's some pet practicality for this. And look, does it make more sense to monitor a bomb sniffing dog that's a huge investment than my house cat? Of course. But once you've created a technology for sort of a higher reason, often it filters down into more practical mass market uses, which then lowers the price.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing application of technology. And being that furry friends like Sebastian, and he's running amok in the studio, gosh knows what he is. He's probably pulling on the wires and can disconnect the whole studio. But they in terms of stress relief, Dan, having pets, just like having relationships with you, very important. And they trust us, whether they're a gerbil or a hamster or a guinea pig or a dog or a cat. They trust us to take care of them, and I think this is a really great. And then, in turn, they help reduce our stress levels. So they play a really pivotal role in our society and in our family structures.
And obviously, this is the Broadcast Retirement Network, so some of our audience is older. It's also, pets can be incredibly important with people that have reached retirement age. My wife's grandfather passed away at a nearly 100 years old a few months ago, and his wife had spent 60-something years with the same human companion and in the same house. And now she's living in an assisted living facility. And one of the saving graces there has been that she's allowed to have a cat. So she's always been a cat person. They've had cats off and on, usually mean cats that only like her. I have not met the current cat. But in this very difficult transition of living alone in a new place, she got to have that sort of, endless comfort. A cat often just wants to be with you. Like one of my cats likes me more, one of my cats likes my wife more. But if my wife goes to bed and closes the door, both cats like me quite a bit, and we'll be cuddling on the couch, and it's good for them and it's good for me.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, I love the fact that we went from higher education and tech to talking about wearable technology and the impact of pets. Always great getting your perspective and seeing you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning. And we'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you next week.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Attention! The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has officially authorized new benefits that Medicare Advantage plans may include. To get the benefits you deserve, you can call the Medicare Coverage Helpline.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. If you're on Medicare, this is important information. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline and they instantly looked up my coverage. In this one simple call, they offered to enroll me in a plan that includes rides to medical appointments, private home aides, doctors and nurses' visits by telephone, and even home-delivered meals. The plan also includes dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage, all at no additional cost.
Don't delay. Call to see if the new benefits are available in your area.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-757-1451. That's 1-800-757-1451.